Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Weggert, and I am the Director of School Counseling here at Hawthorne High School. We would like to thank you for joining us tonight for our freshman and sophomore information session. Our hope and our goal tonight is to be able to give you information really to get you started not only on the college process and what's going to be coming down the road in terms of post-secondary, but our counselors here tonight want to make sure that we were giving you tools essentially that your students and you can use over the next 4 or 3 years. I would like to first go ahead and introduce you to our school counselors here at Hawthorne High School. Before I do so, just a little bit about myself. This is my 4th year here in the district as the Director of School Counseling. Prior to working in Hawthorne, I was a school counselor down in Long Branch, and it has been wonderful ever since I arrived. So first school counselor I would like to introduce to you is Mr. John Codomo. Mr. Codomo, if you would like to share a few words about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully everybody's safe and sound. I've been a counselor at Hawthorne High School since 2010. I usually interact with students from the beginning of the alphabet A to F, although sometimes we get extra students. I'm also the school anti-bullying specialist. So it's great to welcome the freshmen to our wonderful high school again. And obviously the sophomores, had interactions with you before, so hopefully we can get through and have a great year.
Thank you, Mr. Codomo. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Michael Galuccio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Galuccio. This is my 11th year at Hawthorne High School. I work with people at the end of the alphabet, and I do the SAT testing 3 times a year on Saturdays. So welcome.
And finally, Mrs. Zach.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Zach. I'm one of the high school guidance counselors. I look forward to meeting my new freshmen upcoming and, seeing my sophomores again, really excited. Most of my kids are in the middle of the alphabet. I'm also in charge of the local scholarship program here at Hawthorne High School. So once you guys get up to your senior year, I'll be introducing that information to you guys. But just looking forward to a great year.
Great, thank you. So another member of our team that I am going to introduce you to in just a few minutes is Miss Tori Resnick. She joined us this year as our student assistance counselor. And that really, that sums up our guidance department, and we look forward to working with you over the next few years. This year in particular, of course, has so far been a year like no other. So it is really essentially our goal to provide you all with as much support as we possibly can as we navigate this new world of hybrid and remote learning, and hopefully throughout this presentation as well as we discuss the nuts and bolts of high school, we're also really going to talk specifically regarding, hybrid and remote learning as well too, so that we can be the best support to you. One thing that I would like to just direct everybody to at the bottom of our screen, we will be sharing this presentation also as a PDF on our guidance website. Our guidance website includes a lot of resources for our students as well as our families, ranging from information about our school counselors, the college application process, Naviance, which is a tool that we utilize for college and career exploration, as well as a lot of resources for social emotional learning as well too, which we will dive into in a few minutes. The link is accessible through this presentation on this slide right here. When you view the PDF, you will be able to access it. If you are on our Hawthorne website, it can very easily be viewed under departments, and it will take you right there, and you can browse and see what resources we have available to you. So in terms of the counselor's role, okay, now that your students are high school students, the school counselors are going to be working with your students in a variety of different means. Academic counseling, okay, so scheduling, keeping track of your students' grades, making sure that they are meeting their potential. In addition to that, really huge aspect of our counseling office is working with students to create their post-secondary plans. And that involves college and career counseling, having those conversations with our students, regarding what their interests are, their goals are, and really ensuring that we are creating a plan for them here in high school to ensure that they will have the, the success and the best possibilities to reach those goals that they have following their high school career. And then lastly, social emotional counseling. Our students, sometimes they just need to go see somebody to talk about things that are going on in their lives. They need some support, they need some guidance, and we are here to help them, navigate these high school years. We talk about confidentiality. It's important to, know that what the students share with us, it is confidential. We want to develop a rapport with our students that they trust in us. They can come to us when they have things that they would like to talk through. But with confidentiality as well too, it's important to know that things remain confidential, yet if a student is in danger to themselves or others, those are times where we do need to break confidentiality and speak with the parents and make sure that we are getting students the help that they need. With that said, though, we do have a collaborative relationship with our parents. We have a collaborative relationship with our staff members as well, too, to ensure that we're providing our students with the best support. And sometimes there are things that are shared with us that we do have those conversations with students regarding having further conversations with parents and staff members, again, to provide them with as much support as possible if specific information is pertinent to be shared. All right, so I am going to turn it over to Ms. Resnick, our student assistance counselor. We are extremely excited to have her here as a resource this year, and she's going to share with you a little bit of information about herself and the supports that she provides to our students. Ms. Resnick.
Thank you, Ms. Weger. Hi, everyone. I'm Tori Resnick. I'm the student assistance counselor here at Hawthorne High School. It is my first year in this community. I'm very excited to be part of it. I was previously a school counselor at New Providence High School as well as Bernards High School. So I'm excited to step into this new role and to really make an impact with our students. As a student assistance counselor, it's a little bit different than a guidance counselor, but I am part of the guidance department and I'm an extension of the counselors as well. I work individually with students and I meet with them either weekly, monthly, whatever they prefer, to kind of improve resilience, develop more healthy coping skills, overcome struggles, whatever that may be. And it really depends on each student individually, but I really get to personalize services for them and get to know them on a better level to make sure that they're successful. It's very exciting for me to be able to do that here. Referrals to me are usually made through the guidance counselors or staff, administrators, parents, or guardians. You will see at the bottom, right before my photo, there is my website down there. The referral form is listed on there, as well as a bunch of different resources, including mindfulness activities, different resources for dealing with COVID, drug and alcohol, suicide prevention. So lots and lots of resources on there. So please feel free to take a look and reach out if you have any questions. And what sort of concerns do I end up dealing with students? So it is a range of different areas. It could be anything from family changes, anger, anxiety, depression, grief, loss, drug and alcohol, like I mentioned before, any sort of suicidal ideation as well. So it really ranges on what a student is struggling with at the time. It could be issues right now with COVID, dealing with the difference between hybrid and in person. So it depends on what they're looking for. And at the bottom of this side, you will see my staff referral form. So you're more than welcome to fill this out and provide as much information as possible. Please note that anything included on this form is confidential and will only be shared with me and Mrs. Weger as well. But please keep in mind that I will probably reach out if there are questions or concerns prior to meeting with your student. And then in regard to this year in particular, this is probably one of the most important things that I can't talk about enough, is that stress management technique. This is honestly a lot of what I'm meeting with my students with right now, is trying to manage this year in its entirety. So making sure that we get outside, even if it's not the greatest day outside, then to be able to get out there, be in nature, to sleep well, recharge, to really make lists, prioritize things. So there's all sorts of resources listed on our social emotional website, which you'll see, and again on my website as well. Even if it's a virtual meditation room, there's links to there on my site, there's links to there on the social emotional site, or even if it's something where meditation is not something we've ever tried before, there's one that I have on my site that's 60 seconds. So very easy, it's guided. You do not have to even really do anything. You just click play and try it. So I put them all for you on there and your students, just in case you do want to try something. But we can always come up with something that may work a little bit better. But definitely stress management for everyone this year is real important.
So I'm going to jump in here just to kind of go over the schedule that we're dealing with this year. So hopefully at this point, everybody has a good grasp and understanding of how the hybrid schedule is working. You know, believe it or not, and I think I could speak for all of my counselors here, there are some people that are still struggling with it. So I am going to go over how the schedule is working right now for the next week and a half. And then I'm going to go over the changes that are going to be made into phase 2 for our schedule for the second marking period. So as you can see on here, students in cohort A attend in person for classes on Mondays and Thursdays from 8:08 to 12:23 with 4 one-hour classes. On Mondays, they meet with period 1 through 4, Thursdays, periods 5 through 8. Cohort B follows the same type of schedule, but they meet on Tuesdays and Fridays. All students in cohort A, B, and full remote students attend 2 afternoon sessions, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 1:50 and 2:20. They sign in for these sessions through their Google Classroom from their teachers. There's a Google Meet link at the top of the Google Classroom page. For the most part, all of the teachers are following this protocol. If for some reason there's a different protocol, that's going to be specific to each teacher. All students have a full remote day on Wednesdays. That starts at 9 a.m., ends at 12:55 with 25-minute sessions. So any full remote students can also find any morning remote sessions listed on their schedule in the parent portal. And they can also view that on the Hawthorne High School website for the full schedule for all the remote sessions that are offered to all students. But now we're going to be going into some changes for phase 2. So if Ms. Weigert, you could switch to the next slide. Thank you so much. This next schedule is going to be effective starting November 9th. Which is the beginning of the second marking period. So there's going to be a little bit of changes, and I think this is going to be really effective to make sure that we're getting the most information out to your students as possible and really getting them to be engaged more so in classes. Teachers are going to be able to live stream their in-person classes. So they're available to the alternating cohort and all fully remote students. So students in cohort A will continue to have in-person classes on Mondays and Thursdays from 8:08 to 12:23. Students in cohort B will, and any full remote students will be able to live stream into those classes and attend through Google Meet virtually from home. So in essence, all the students will be able to meet together in those morning sessions with the other cohort at the same time, which is great. So again, students in cohort B are going to continue to have in-person classes on Tuesdays and Fridays as usual, but those cohort A students and those fully remote students will be attending virtually from home. So this is going to allow for, I think, a lot more instructional time. Yes, of course, it's going to be an adjustment, but I think it's going to benefit everybody in the long run. Some other changes to the schedule you could see on here. The afternoon sessions on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays are going to change from, instead of being 2 25-minute sessions from 2 classes, it's going to be 1 45-minute session. So for example, on Mondays, you can see students are going to log into their period 7 class only. So again, all cohorts log in virtually to these sessions. So cohort A, cohort B, and remote. So afternoons are going to they're going to be very consistent every week. So period 7 will be Mondays, period 8 will be Tuesdays, period 1 Thursdays, period 2 on Fridays, and these classes are going to start at 2 p.m. Wednesdays are slightly adjusted here as well. So students are going to log in Wednesdays remotely starting at 9 a.m., which is the same, but they will only meet with their period 3, 4, 5, and 6 classes. These are going to be 45-minute sessions, similar now to these afternoon sessions we'll have Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Students will meet with their first 3 45-minute sessions, so periods 3, 4, and 5. Then they're going to have a break for lunch, about a 45-minute session. Then they're going to log back into their last period class starting at 12:30. From 1:20 to 2:45, teachers will be able to do prep work, and they'll also be available to your students if they need any extra help at that time. Something else to note here, all the morning remote sessions for any full remote student, those will no longer be taking place. Since all students in all the cohorts will be able to attend classes every day in this model in some fashion, whether remote or in person, the remote sessions will no longer be needed. It's really important that you guys all review this schedule with your child for a seamless start to the second marking period. But of course, there's going to be questions still. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your counselor directly.
And just to note as well too, before we move on to the next slide, your student schedules will be reflective of this new schedule in Parent Portal for November 9th. We administratively are going to be working hard over the teachers' convention days to make sure that we have everything completed in real time so that for November 9th, your students are able to log in and they can read their schedule exactly as you are seeing here, and as it will reflect the courses that they are currently taking in their schedule.
So just some reminders for virtual etiquette for students when they're on these remote sessions. You know, this is an adjustment, and, you know, as you can see, we're all doing this remotely as well. So we're all kind of getting used to the new process, the new protocol things, but just some reminders for your students. Of course, all students are required to show up at the scheduled time. Students should be finding a quiet place with the least amount of distractions. I know a lot of us are all working remotely. Parents are now working remotely. We have other siblings that are in the home too, but students should be doing the best they can to get themselves into a place where they're going to have the least amount of distractions. Be respectful, of course, when speaking and writing. Dress appropriately as if you're in the school building. Also, please have your child mute themselves until they'd like to contribute, need to speak or ask a question. Background noises kind of affect things. My Alexa just went off, so those types of things happen. So it's helpful when all the other participants are muted until they need to speak. Video must be on in order to be considered present for attendance. So that's something that you guys and should be really reiterating to your children. So if they aren't on camera, they technically aren't going to be considered present. So very, very important. Of course, continue to maintain eye contact and pay attention to the lesson activity. Limit distractions to others in the classroom. And I think you can kind of see most of these things are general good rules of thumb for when you're in the classroom normally. So if you wouldn't do it in class in person, you shouldn't be doing it in video. Of course, find an appropriate background, such as a blank wall behind you, or you could also blur your background on Google Meet. That's a new feature that they came out with. So if you can't find anything to cleaned up in the back, you can always blur it. And of course, students shouldn't be copying, altering, or redistributing any conferencing videos or any of that type. So once this presentation will be available on the website, there's also another virtual etiquette presentation here, just to kind of give a little bit more support and tips for students. So to get into graduation requirements for your students, just to go over the rules that are the protocols that we have in place from the state of New Jersey, we do require 4 years of English, 4 years of physical education and health. So that means for those 2 core academic classes, they will be taking that class in each year throughout their high school career. Students are required to take 3 years of history. That usually pertains to world history, US 1 and US 2. 3 years of math, generally that could be Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, or another course building upon those subjects. Depending on your student's math placement in middle school, they could start out as freshmen in geometry even. So, and that totally is also accessible for graduation requirements in the progression. 3 years of science, that tends to look like biology as freshmen, chemistry as sophomores traditionally, and also physics. And then the students, of course, we always encourage students for all of these 3-year academic requirements, we do encourage them to continue to take a 4th year, especially if they're college-bound students for any of these courses, because it does, of course, look better to have strong academic courses in their senior year. We do require 1 year of a world language, so we offer Spanish or Italian. That's for graduation purposes. But if your child is intending to attend a 4-year college once they leave Hawthorne High School, they should be taking at least 2 years for attending a 4-year school. We do require also 2.5 credits of personal finance, 5 credits of a visual and performing art course. So that could be introduction to art, chorus, guitar, media arts. And we also require 5 credits of a practical and career art. So that could be more business type class, things that you use like skills for 21st century learning. While we have all those requirements, we also require students to graduate with 140 credits. We do have students take 8 classes per year, which are generally includes that's 5 credits each. So each year, students would have 40 credits, so they should have no issue hitting the 40 credit mark, the 140 credit mark. Additionally, outside of these graduation requirements, we also require a passing score on the NJSLA or any other alternative assessments. That comes down from the state of New Jersey. And I could touch on a little bit more about what that looks like in the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to look at transcripts, then I will get back to NJSLA. So just what we're looking at here is the high school transcript. This is what a cumulative assessment and picture of what your students' course load over their 4 years of high school is going to look like. So this is going to be a record of all the courses you take during your time here. It's going to list your classes, your final grades in those courses, and once you get into your senior year, there'll be a listing of your class rank and your GPA. So of course, the best high school transcript is going to show consistent grades in classes that challenge you. So that's different for everybody. That could mean consistently staying in college prep level classes, maybe taking 1 honors course at some point in your career, or that could mean that you're taking consistent honors classes and moving on to AP. It's all relative to who you are as a student. So please keep that in mind and be sure to challenge yourself to the best of your ability or to your child's ability. These grades will follow you into your senior year and beyond, so working hard in all 4 years of your high school career is imperative. I do have a lot of students that ask me now, seniors, when we're submitting college applications, they're wondering how their senior year grades are going to impact their college applications. They will see all of that information, so they will see all of those grades, so it's very important to continue to work hard, throughout your entire high school career. Our GPA at Hawthorne High School is a numerical conversion on a 100-point scale. While we do also give you a 4.0 scale, our transcript's always going to reflect the 100-point scale. Our weighted classes, you get an extra your honors classes, you get an extra 1.1 grade point included into that class. So you get a little boost for taking this extra rigorous class into your GPA. An advanced placement class would give you an extra 1.12 extra grade points into your GPA as well. It's just a good thing to show that, when you're taking these more rigorous classes, you're going to get a little bit more credit for it, and your GPA will get a little bit more of a boost, because we realize, and colleges will also realize, that you're doing more work than the average college prep level class.
Mrs. Zach, one thing that I would just like to make mention, especially for our freshman students and our freshman parents, freshman year really is important. A lot of times students say too, well, freshman year doesn't count. Well, it really does. It's important that our students start strong and they maintain. But what I will say as well too is, again, going back to my opening, this year is like no other. We are navigating something new. Remote instruction, hybrid instruction, this is new for everybody. And some students are struggling with the schedule right now and, just keeping up with what is a little bit of a more unstructured, unconventional school year. So, if you do have students right now that are presently feeling like they are having a difficult time keeping up with their coursework, having concerns about their grades, number one, please reach out to us so that we can be of assistance. But number two, when we talk about, colleges and reviewing the transcript as well too, schools do want to see progress. So, the important thing is, even if we have had a rocky marking period 1, there's a lot of room to still improve and to move forward. So, I think we just have to take a look at the situation that we're in right now, and know that things are going to get better and they are going to improve. And as long as our students are doing the best that they possibly can for themselves right now, that is what is important. And we're going to look at what improvements can we make moving forward.
Absolutely. And another thing I do, a question I get sometimes when we have our meetings, our college meetings, is regarding what types, if, maybe a student had a rocky second marking period, of course, in their freshman year, this year potentially, our college is going to see that. Colleges will never see that you maybe had a rough second marking period in your freshman year. What you see on this transcript is the final grades, and that's what they will see. So again, as Ms. Weggert was saying, improving and progress and moving forward, and of course, reaching out if you need anything, it's the best thing you can do. But they're never going to ask me to give a specific grade from years prior for a specific marking period. So that should help ease a little bit of stress. So back to NJ state graduation testing requirements. So I did go over previously that we have, our high school graduation requirements, but the state of New Jersey does require students to meet proficiency for testing in English language, arts and literacy, and also in mathematics. For the most part, these are assessed through the NJSLA, which is the state mandated test that we give to students every school year. So students must demonstrate proficiency within their 10th grade PARC or NJSLA ELA exam in grade 10, and then also for mathematics, NJSLA, and Algebra 1. If they don't meet proficiency through these tests in those grades at that time when they take the assessment, they will also look at further tests and other assessments that students took to see if they did meet proficiency in an alternative way. For the most part, the state will be looking at first any NJSLA scores to ensure that they've met the requirement. Generally speaking, it's either a 725 or a 750 that they're looking for in that category. If for some reason your child did not meet proficiency in these tests at that point, we will start looking at, the state will allow us to look at alternative assessments with a certain cutoff score to see if you could meet proficiency in that way. Alternative assessments could mean SATs, ACTs, AccuPlacers, ASVAB test, which is a military test, multiple different resources, multiple different ways to ensure that you're meeting the testing requirement. So you could see here, it's a little small, but this information is also going to be listed, is also available on our website, so you could review it in greater detail there. So again, if you don't meet the proficiency in ELA grade 10 or Algebra 1, whenever you take that, that could be either, if you take that in your freshman year, most likely, they will look at these other criteria to see if you've met proficiency. If for some reason you get into your senior year, your child gets into their senior year, and they still have not met proficiency, we will begin, administering an ASVAB test during the school year, during the school day, to give students the opportunity to meet testing. Of course, we'll encourage students to register for an SAT test or an ACT test to help them meet proficiency. Once we get into maybe your January, February, some point, if we still have not had your child meet proficiency, we will begin the portfolio process, which is really just like smaller assessments, one-on-one, where students are able to work on either a written assignment or math-based problems, which will be reviewed by a teacher in the building for quality before we send it up to the state for review. At that point, the state reviews it and gives us the okay, go ahead, that your student is proficient enough to graduate high school with under the state graduated testing requirement. We've had great success with that over the years here. So, most of our students don't get to that point with the portfolio process, so not something you should be worrying about, but it does happen in some cases. But we do have a great program how we work through with the portfolio, and we've had great success with it. So now jumping into attendance, I think this is a big talking point here, for this school year, because it is really unconventional and a totally different process that we're handling here. But it's really important to be aware of it and to know, the full details of the attendance policy. Attendance is monitored daily, so there's a daily attendance, and there's also period attendance for each class that you're attending. That includes classes that you're meeting with in person, and that also means the remote sessions. So any excessive absences in a class can result in loss of credit in a course, which would mean you would not earn any grade. You would have to repeat the course if it's a graduation requirement, and it would, appear on your transcript that way. So any full year courses, you're entitled to 18 absences. That sounds like a lot, but it's really not for a full year from September to June. It's something just to keep in mind. Of course, consistent attendance in your classes is really important. You would lose credit for a class of the 19th absence. Okay, very important to be aware of that. If you have 18 tardies or 18 lates to a class, you also can lose credit that way. So that's important to keep in mind. Any half-year classes, like your ceramics, entrepreneurship, public speaking, and debate, those classes are for 2 marking periods. But because they're only for 2 marking periods, the attendance requirement is cut in half, right? So you would have 9 absences you're allotted for those classes. You would lose credit on the 10th absence. If you're late to that class 12 times, you would also lose credit. So late and absences are very important to be aware of and to make sure you're on time to your classes all the time. Phys Ed, that's met for 3 marking periods, so you're entitled to 14 absences. You would lose credit on the 15th absence. You're allowed 18 tardies also to physical education. Health is a 1 marking period class, so students are entitled to 5 absences from this class. They would lose credit on the 6th. If they cut the class, if they're supposed to be attending school and they don't show up to the course, that is a full consistent loss of credit. So that's something, again, to keep in mind, because you only meet for a short amount of time, and there's a lot of information that they're trying to give out to you in that short amount of time. Something else to consider, I know this is a lot of information regarding attendance. If you are late to a class 3 times, that accumulates as 1 absence. So for example, if you were absent to a full year class 18 times, and then on the last day you were late, and that was it, and you were late 3 times, that would add up to a 19, and you would lose credit for that class. So it's important to maintain and be aware of your full day absences and your late, and realize that they do accumulate together. Additionally, I'm sorry, let me mention one more thing. All correspondence regarding attendance is generated through the parent portal. So really important to be logging in regularly, checking your students' attendance. If there is any letters generated, they do get generated, the 5th absence, the 10th absence, pertaining to the class specifically, you will get notification through the parent portal. So it's really important to make sure that you're checking that out often.
And also too, when that correspondence does get sent home, that correspondence will provide for you the days or the dates that your student was absent. So it's going to give you that exact information to be able to cross-reference. And if you have any questions or concerns pertaining to that, you can always reach out to our attendance office, which is our assistant principal's office.
And at
I would like
this point,
excuse me for interrupting, I would just like to mention to the parents, I mean, especially now with the hybrid and the remote classes that are going on, it's important that the students realize that they have to sign in at these periods because they are responsible for those periods and it does count on their attendance.
yes, absolutely. So I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Galluccio to touch base a little bit more regarding potentially what could happen if you lose credit in a course.
So if you lose credit for a course, you can make up the course. So it's the same ways if you fail a class. So if you're losing credit for a course due to attendance, or you fail the class for the year with a 64 or lower as a final grade, you have 2 options. The first option, which is again highly encouraged, is that you make up the course during the summer. You could do that either in person, because there are some locations nearby, like at Clifton High School, Wayne Valley High School, that offer in-person summer school for 5 or 6 weeks in the summer. Or you could do it online through one of our online providers, either through EduSeer or through K-12 virtual ed services. That information will be sent to you by our office once, in June during the last couple of weeks of school. Once it's official that, the child has lost credit for the class, or mathematically it's impossible for your child to pass the class, you'll get that information from our office. And then whoever your child's counselor is will reach out to you. You can speak with them about the options, the dates, the prices, what's best for you. If for whatever reason your child can't go to summer school, then you're going to be making that class up on average the next school year. So if you're failing or losing credit for a core class like Algebra 1, like World History, like Biology, like English 1, you would take that again the following school year. If it's an elective class that you lose credit for, so let's say you lose credit for a class like Art 1 for attendance purposes, you're not necessarily going to be taking that class during the summer, or you're not necessarily going to be taking it again the following school year, but those credits would be made up through other electives that you're taking. Let's say that you fail more than 2 classes academically, or you lose credit for 1 class and you fail 2 classes academically. You're only allowed to make up a maximum of 2 classes during the summer. So that means that from a credit standpoint, you're going to get those credit back provided that you pass the classes through summer school. But let's say that you have failed 2 classes and you lose credit for another class. That's 15 credits that you would lose, because again, each year you have 40 credits that you would receive by passing all of your classes. And if you look at the chart on the bottom of this screen, that's going to probably be easier for you to understand as far as the minimum requirements for moving up year by year. So at the end of freshman year, you need 35 credits in order to move on to grade 10. So that means that you're allowed, whether through losing credit or failing academically, 35 credits you need at least to move up to 10th grade. For sophomore year to junior year, you need at least 70 credits to move up to that. And then come senior year, from junior year to senior year, you need a minimum of 100 credits in order to be a senior. Ms. Zach touched on this briefly before, but the parent portal is really, I like to call it your best friend, because all of the information that you need is accessible here. By all means, you can reach out to us with questions that you have, but most of the questions that you have can be answered here through the portal, where it gives you everything that you need from an attendance perspective, from a grade perspective, from a other documents perspective that you need that may be missing. So if this is your first child and you've never used the portal before, again, the instructions on this page give you the information as far as how you're accessing the portal by creating the account. For information related to the portal, again, daily attendance, if you click on that, that tells you essentially whether or not your child's there for the day, whether in person or virtually. The period attendance, which again was talked about briefly earlier, that talks about for each class, whether we're in the building or not in the building, so the class is virtual or not virtual, whether your child is attending. So those attendance notifications that you're going to be getting after reaching that 5, 10, 15 mark, if you click on that period attendance tab in your parent portal, it's going to tell you what days your child was not present, i.e. why you're getting that notification for that respective class. If you wanted to know how they were doing in a respective class grade-wise, you would just click on the grades tab, the gradebooks tab, and you would get how they're doing on a daily basis in each class, what that grade is, what their average is right now in the class, what assignments they're missing, how they did on quizzes or tests. So all the information that you would need from a perspective of attendance and grades is in this portal. Again, from a testing perspective, where Ms. Zach talked about this earlier, there's plenty of testing that's, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, there's a lot of testing that your child's going to be doing throughout high school. Some of it, as it was touched on earlier, is needed solely for graduation purposes. but others have multiple factors. And what I mean by that, where, you know, the alternative assessments like a PSAT, like an SAT, like an ACT, yes, that's needed for graduation purposes, but it's also needed for college admissions purposes or gauging where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are in certain areas. The PSAT, which again is a practice test that's given to all 10th and 11th grade students each year. The results of that test will show where your child's strengths, weaknesses are in certain areas, what needs to be worked upon in those respective areas in order to prepare for the SAT, ACT starting in junior year. Again, we'll go over that information with them to kind of go over, again, what those strengths, what those weaknesses are. AP exams, which again are given the first 2 weeks of May every year. That's given on average for juniors, seniors, but also some sophomores, and occasionally a freshman may be in an AP class, depending on the nature of the class. That's given to gauge their knowledge base in that respective course. Because again, the curriculum covers from September to the end of April in each AP class. They're reviewing for the test during the school year, but then a score is given for the exam on a 1 to 5 scale, which again, colleges will accept most exam scores of a 4 or 5, depending on the school, which will go more in depth when it comes time for your child to be applying to colleges. The ASVAB, which was talked about earlier, again, not only from a graduation perspective, is that an alternative assessment, but if your child is looking to go into the military, they are going to have to take that exam in order for military service. And the AccuPlacer, which again, an alternative assessment for graduation purposes, but students are going to have to take, in some cases, AccuPlacers, whether it be if your child's looking to go to a 2-year school, or possibly for a 4-year school as well. You may have to take an AccuPlacer in English and math to determine the level of English or math your child is going to take on the college level. And again, on the bottom on this slide, you see the practice assessments that you can access for anything College Board related, which would be the SAT, ACT, AP, ACT, NJSLA, by going to their websites and clicking on the links that are there on the bottom of the screen.
One thing that I just want to make mention of, so typically we offer the PSAT in October for our sophomores and our juniors. This year was a little different just because we are dealing with COVID restrictions and, classrooms and social distancing. And we also wanted to provide seniors an opportunity this year that did not have a chance to take their SAT, the opportunity to do so. So what we ended up doing, which was a little different, was we offered a school day SAT on October 14th, which is typically the PSAT day. College Board released a new date, which typically is not a date that is offered later in the school year, January 26th, that school districts have the ability to offer the PSAT on that date. So we are projected to still move forward with the PSAT. It's just going to be offered in January, and we will get you more information pertaining to that as we move forward. If your child is a remote student, know that we will be sending out some form of a Google form inquiry for your student to sign up if they do wish to come into the building for that PSAT date. So information is forthcoming.
The small learning communities that we have here at the high school, for freshman parents, you may remember when we met with you last spring at the middle school for scheduling for this year, we talked about the different small learning communities that we have in our building now, where again, they're broken down based on interest area. So there's biotechnology research and health sciences, business administration, communication and the arts, government and social sciences. And again, we want to make sure that your child is taking classes that interest them. So they are not locked into this small learning community for all 4 years while they're in the building, because again, people do change their minds on average from at a certain point what they would want to be doing after high school. But let's say your child has entered the building and they have an interest in health sciences. Well, then they would be in the biotechnology research and health science small learning community. If they decide to change their mind next year and they say, well, I think I may want to be a sports agent. Well, then they would be in the business administration small learning community. Again, they're suggested courses, so you're not locked into that. And I remember having conversations with a few parents about that last year at the middle school. You may select any course that you want, as long as you meet the requirements and prerequisites for those courses. So again, when we meet with your child for scheduling in the spring, we'll go over that again with them. But that's important just to remember, to stress that they do exist, because the end goal is to make sure that your child is taking the classes that they want to take and having exposure to them as early as possible.
And Mr. Galluccio, one thing that I wanted to make mention, so this year we are running 2 new courses, Introduction to Engineering and Cybersecurity. So due to those new additions and our new STEM lab that we have due to the referendum, the Biotechnology, Research, and Health Sciences, we are now going to be looking at that more as a C-STEM, so computer science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, really to hone in on our students who are interested perhaps a little bit more in computer science, technology, as well as engineering as well too.
We do offer dual enrollment courses in our building, where dual enrollment courses are an excellent opportunity for students to earn college credit while you're still in high school. So you would earn that college credit by taking the classes that are listed on this screen. So there's different partnerships that we have with different universities in this area. So the classes that we offer through Fairleigh Dickinson University's middle college program is AP Bio, AP Environmental, AP Italian, Italian 4 Honors, AP Physics, and Tomorrow's Teachers. Through Seton Hall University's Project Acceleration Program, we have Advanced Media Arts, AP Computer Science, Pre-AP US 1, Broadcasting 2, and then through Passaic County Community College, there's Intro to Criminal Justice and Algebra as well. So the information as far as taking the course, how do I enroll in that? Ms. Weger does a good job in September of going into the actual class, providing the information to the students, talks about dual enrollment, how you're registering. Again, the cost varies for each program, but what I would encourage you to do is exactly what's on the bottom of the slide. Visit each school's website for further information. Again, it's an excellent opportunity for your child to earn college credit before they enter college.
Yeah, and we're hoping the college algebra, which you see there under Passaic County Community College, we're hoping to bring that back at some point post-COVID. Unfortunately, this year, just due to COVID as well too, that is not running, but that is an agreement that we have, and hopefully we'll be able to bring that back to us sometime soon.
So your child should have an academic goal during high school. Every student, regardless of what classes they're in, regardless of what their love is for a certain class, they should have a goal of what they want to achieve during their high school career. There's nothing wrong with challenging them and challenging your child, but you also want to make sure that you're keeping the goal realistic, not only just based on their interest level, but also based on their social and emotional health as well. So if they're struggling in a class, the best thing that you could do is reach out to the child's teacher first. Again, you're accessing that portal that we talked about earlier to see what exactly they're doing or they're not doing. If you're concerned, reach out to your child's teacher, because that's the best person to talk about that individual class, to see what their thoughts are, whether it's virtual or in person, what they're picking up on, what their struggles are, what your child's struggles are. If they are having trouble in a respective class, make sure that they're getting help, whether it's from a teacher, whether it's from a National Honor Society tutor, whether it's from somebody outside of our building. Whoever you as a family feel would be the best person for them to work with, they're going to need help if they don't understand something. If they don't understand something, again, as the third slide says here, ask for clarification, because for any human being, if you're not understanding what's going on, you have to ask. you're not going to be able to grasp what's going on in that respective class. Again, make sure that your child is arriving to class every day on time, whether it's in the building or virtually, they're logging in for every class on time. You want to make sure that their homework is being turned on or tuned in a consistent basis. So that has to be turned in on time. The tutoring, which I talked about a few minutes ago for NHS, the National Honor Society does have peer tutors where they are available virtually to meet with your child if they are struggling in a respective class. The tutoring form is available where each teacher in our building has access to that form that our National Honor Society advisor has provided, or he can provide that directly to you as well. But I would start with the teacher as the first line for that form as well. Again, if one of your child's friends is having trouble in that class and they understand what's going on, by all means have them help them as well so that they can understand what's going on. There's nothing wrong. In fact, I would highly encourage that in most cases for peers to be working with peers so they understand what's going on. And again, make sure that you're checking as a parent, the parent portal regularly to see exactly what your child is doing in that respective class. Setting goals and making a plan, that's essential regardless of what year in high school your child is. But really that's crucial for freshman year when you're entering the building for a first time, because you're adjusting to how high school classes are structured, but you want to make sure that you're mapping out a plan for each class, what your goals are and how you're going to achieve that work. So again, you're doing that by keeping track of when things are due. Managing your time wisely as far as how you're going to do the work, how you're going to prepare for a test or a quiz. Again, work smarter, not harder, so that you're working efficiently, not overtaxing yourself, so that you're understanding how you work best and you're working best. Create a routine where if you get into a routine, that's going to maximize your chances of success in that class, to not only get the work done that you're going to have to do, but learning the material and preparing for tests as well. You don't want to overload yourself, so that's why not having your child overload themselves is crucial for creating that routine. Record your assignments daily, whether that's electronically or writing them down, whatever method is best for your child. You want to structure your time efficiently so that you're not going overboard with anything electronic related. By keeping things in perspective, that kind of goes back to the goal setting, where you want to have goals, but you want to make sure that the realistic goals that your child is setting for themselves. And it's crucial not to be doing everything all at once. So if the day's ending at 3 o'clock, you don't want to have your child be doing work for the next 6 hours. You want to make sure that there's breaks in between, that they're having those breaks. They're doing things that they like doing, whether it's inside your house or outside of your house, so that their brain has a break, so that it's not overloaded with material and information. Study habits, again, in order to learn materials and learn information, you want to make sure that you're studying effectively. So what type of learner your child is, where if you're looking at this slide, you're seeing that there's different types of learners that exist, whether it's visual, whether it's auditory, whether it's tactile. Again, you may have a clear sense at this point what type of learner your child is. You may not, but these descriptions can help gauge, narrow down, focus in on what type of learner your child is to maximize how they learn best. How they're learning and where they're learning go hand in hand. So everybody learns differently, but they also absorb information from a location perspective differently too. So most people will like peace and quiet when they're learning information. There's some people that like static noise around them. And that all varies depending on the type of person that your child is. So where that location that they're learning and absorbing information is crucial too. What their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, Again, you would have a general sense at this point of what your child's strengths and weaknesses are. But if you don't, there's resources in order to kind of gauge that. So various programs like Quizlet, like Khan Academy to reinforce learning are crucial to kind of help you gauge what type of learner your child is. At this point as well, some people work better independently. Some people work better in groups. If there's not a designated space for learning, I would highly encourage you to set one up in your home to maximize learning for your child. And again, what's easier for them? There's going to be some information, some classes that are going to come very easily to them. Other classes won't, where some people are math and science learners, others are more English history. You want to focus on both equally. So if things come easier, that doesn't mean you should put that to the side. If it's more challenging, that doesn't mean that you need to spend all of your time working on that. You want to find that balance between all subjects and how you're learning best for all classes. And if you're not understanding something, again, as I said earlier, make sure that your child is asking for help, because no one is going to know that your child is struggling unless that's communicated to the teacher in the class. And at this point, I think I'm handing it over to Mr. Kodomo.
Thank you, Mr. Gluccio. We're going to switch over to outside of school activities. We have different clubs and sports teams that your children can participate in, which is important. I always say colleges don't only want you to get great grades, they want you to walk on water. I mean, there's so many things that come into the college acceptance program nowadays. So, you really need to try to do a few outside activities like clubs or sports. We'll get into the list of those in a little while. Part-time job is also something that your students could do, especially if they're thinking of a particular career. Scaluccio mentioned that, have a goal. So if the students have a particular career or goal in mind, a part-time job, especially nursing, for instance, if you have an interest in nursing, volunteering at a community service. Volunteering is very important in the aspect with colleges. Look for that too. They want to see that you can do academics, and they want to see if you can get involved in different activities to become a more well-rounded student. Obviously, we also will mention again, a healthy balance of activities and sports, also including with the academics, is important too. And you have to know your passions, but you also have to be able to manage your time effectively. So that's also important. Resume building. Obviously, we're freshmen. We talked about the transcript before. I always like to state to freshmen that it's a clean slate. Right now, your child's transcript is clean, it has nothing on it. So they are in the process of forming that transcript. So it's important to build the transcript in positive ways, and also the resume, to build a resume and have the student, once we meet with the freshman, we're going to give them codes to sign into Naviance, and they'll be able to start to explore Naviance, and the resume is important to start writing down the activities that they're doing. Quality over quantity. Basically, what we're trying to tell you there is you want to get involved in different activities with the academics, sports, clubs, but you don't want to get involved in 20 clubs and only do 5 minutes or an hour or a year in each club. You want to make sure your participation has quality to it and you're getting something out of it and you're enjoying it. So the clubs you want to join, you have to have an interest in, and that's important too. When you're choosing courses, you want to choose courses that are appropriately gauged for your ability, right? AP and honors classes are not for everyone. So you want to make sure that when you're sitting down and taking courses and meeting with your counselor and going over the different scheduling for the following year, you want to take courses that are going to be appropriate for you, all right? There are prerequisites for honors and AP classes, and this will be reviewed during your scheduling. Teachers, when they are making recommendations, we look at three things. We look at mid-year average, teacher recommendations, and then the scores, the testing scores that Ms. Zach mentioned before come into play when we're making recommendations for classes. If your child is not recommended for a class that you think they should be in, there is an appeal process which will be explained to your children and you. If you have any questions, you can always call the counselor about the appeal process. But be careful what you hear from different sources, because there's a lot of different stories that go out there. So if you have a question, ask us. We'll be able to best answer your questions.
And Mr. Kodomo, I know you're going to get into a little bit more detail in a moment regarding the different sports that we offer, the different clubs that we offer and activities. You know, one thing just to keep in mind as we are talking about the importance of getting involved or potentially part-time jobs outside of school, we understand that there are some restrictions right now. You know, your students may not feel comfortable going out and getting a job. Even in terms of some of our clubs and activities at the present moment, many of them are, you know, meeting virtually versus in person. So, you know, it's all relative, like right now. Colleges and universities know and understand that, you know, students are in a situation where there are restrictions in regards to what they can get involved in. And that certainly is going to be taken into consideration down the road during the application process. So I think it's just very important that you do have those conversations with your students. You know, what are their goals? What are the things that they enjoy? What is going on right now that they possibly can get involved in? And, you know, maybe if there is something that is not running at the present moment, but they would like to get involved in down the road, you know, set that aside and just know that it's something that we're going to get into hopefully once things do start to improve a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Weger. All right, so with athletics, there are 3 seasons. There's a fall season, a winter season, and a spring season. All right. In the fall, traditionally, they have football, cheerleading, soccer, and volleyball. Okay, those are the fall sports. If I'm thinking of that correctly, I think that there's also tennis involved with the fall sport. Speaking as a previous tennis coach, there is tennis also, girls tennis, I should say, is offered in the fall there. Okay. Once again, if your child has an interest in those sports, they should definitely participate in them. Some of them, because of the COVID, like Ms. Weger mentioned, may not be available, but we are having football. I know that we are having soccer this fall. We are having tennis. I do not believe volleyball is going on, but I do believe football, soccer, cheerleading, and tennis are going on. So those are the fall sports that are available. In the winter, traditionally, there's a basketball, cheerleading, wrestling, bowling, and indoor track that is available during the winter. So if your children have any interest in that, hopefully, as the year progresses, we'll be able to get more quote unquote normal and get back to the activities. And we're hoping that these winter sports will be available to your children. So if they have an interest in those sports, the announcements are going out now because we've been hearing the announcements in the morning. If a student is interested in basketball, be it girls or boys, they are already being notified that they have to go to meetings, and they're given that information during the day from the different clubs and activities and sports that are available, okay? In the spring, traditionally, we offer baseball, softball, lacrosse, track, and golf. Those are the sports that are available in the spring. Hopefully, the spring is about 5 or 6 months away. Those sports will all be being used and being able to participate in those sports. We look forward to those sports. So once again, usually January, late January, early February, they start to make announcements for those sports. So if your children are interested in those sports, and parents, you can always go to the website and find out when and how your child, if they have an interest in any of those spring sports, they can sign up for those sports.
And Mr. Kodomo, we found our typo. So the tennis in the spring is actually meant to be in the fall. So there you go.
All right, extracurricular activities. Once again, this is the ideal world. The clubs and the extracurricular activities we offer. Before COVID, obviously some of these may not be going on. Ms. Weger also mentioned that there may be virtual meetings for these clubs. So if your child has an interest in any of these clubs, they are to look into them. There's the art club, broadcasting, creative writing, digital media, drama, ecology club, GSA club, Italian, jazz, math, robotics, share, Spanish, and the Clarion. So all those clubs are available to your students. They may be virtual. If they have an interest in the club, they can ask student activities. They can ask us, and we can be more than happy to share that information. The extracurricular activities that are out there, chorus. Obviously, that's very important if you have an interest in singing. We have a chorus. There's a color guard, a marching band, which is this marching band and color guard have been going on presently. Makerspace, peer counseling, which is important, especially for your children if they want to get involved in counseling students as they go through their high school career. We have a peer counseling, extracurricular activity, play production, stage crew. Those two, obviously, in an ideal world, are going on. Presently, I do not believe that we are going to have any play productions because of COVID, but hopefully, we usually have a fall and a spring show. You never know. Hopefully, we can hope that in the spring we will be able to have a play production and stage crew, but then we'll see how that works out. Student council is always going on, so students can participate in that if it's virtual or whatever at this point, but we do have a student council. Victory Road Leadership Series is out there, youth and government program, and then the 3 honor societies that are out there. If your child is in an Italian, they chose Italian as the class, they can get involved with the Italian honor society down the road, which is based on merit and grades and participation with the honor society. Spanish honor society, same thing. It's based on merit and participation in grades. And if your grades are up there, you may be eligible for entry into the honors, both the Italian and the Spanish honor society. And finally, the National Honor Society, which is based on your children's first 2.5 years of high school, based on the grade point average. And we look at all the averages of the students, and if they're eligible, they will receive notification about the National Honor Society, and they'll go through a process, and hopefully they'll be inducted into the National Honor Society. Anybody else want to add anything regarding those honor societies? No? Okay. All right, Naviance. This is usually Mr. Galuccio's favorite subject. I'm glad that I get a chance to speak about Naviance because Naviance is a very good program at our school. There are 3 important areas in Naviance. It's a web-based college and career resource to help students plan their future. And as Mr. Galuccio, I'm sure Ms. Zach and Ms. Wegert and Ms. Resnick would say, it's important for students to start early when they're planning. Never hesitate. Think it's too early for college, career planning, success planning. It's always important to start early, all right? Career plan, let's deal with that aspect first. There's a resume building. Resume is so important. I mean, you know, you don't want to be in your senior year and have people nagging you to get your resume done, because then you have to think, well, what did I do when I was a freshman? Didn't I do this? Didn't I do that? That's why it's important to start writing down all the different things you're doing as a freshman, sophomore. Get that information down there. There are career interest profiles out there, because if you don't have a goal, or you're not sure, these interest profiles, inventories are based, the answers that you give are based to give you different careers that you can research and explore to find out if you do have an interest. And like I mentioned before, with a part-time job or volunteering, if you have an interest in a particular career, part-time job or volunteering, if applicable due to the COVID, you should try to explore those avenues. And the different learning style inventory that's out there too. We mentioned before, I think Mr. Galuccio mentioned the different ways children and any human being learns are all different. So the learning style inventory out there is also good with the career planning. College planning, obviously that's very important. Even if you're a freshman, don't think it's too early. You can start to search colleges, college major exploration, which goes back to the career interest inventories, signing up for college visits, which usually is for the juniors and seniors with the college planning, and the scholarship and financial aid opportunities. Once again, never too early to start to research scholarships and financial aid opportunities, because let's just say you have an interest in nursing, and if you have a scholarship that's out there, you can see what the criteria is for as a freshman, and you can say, oh, well, I can do this, I can do that, to get the experience that you need for when you're applying to a specific scholarship that's out there. All right, and the final avenue that Naviance covers is success planning. It gives you the goals, like I mentioned before. It gives you personalized goals and how you can achieve those goals, and step-by-step way to do that. A task list and a to-do list, which is important. Some people, we talked about how different people learn. Some people in their mind, they don't need to write things down. Other people need to write things down. They need to have a checklist. They need to check off what they're doing when they're doing things. So all that's important. Mr. Galuccio mentioned you know your child better than we do. You may have an idea of how your child learns, but anything that you're exploring is important to with the success planning. Feel free to explore all the programs that Naviance has to offer. Once again, if you have any questions, you can contact any of your children's guidance counselor and ask them any questions you have. How do you access my account? All right, so sophomores out there at this wonderful meeting we're giving you, when we met with you as freshmen, we gave you your username and your password. All right, it says there, most likely your username is your email address. So if you forgot that, just try your email address, the school email address. All right. If you forgot your password, you can reach out to your counselor and we can reset it for you by sending an email to your a reset to your email that we have on file for you. Okay. We have a welcoming for freshmen and sophomores once you get into Naviance. So freshmen, we will be meeting with you, and when we meet with you, either virtually or in person, we will be going over all the Naviance particulars for freshmen and sophomores. And if you read that, it says read more. It gives you definitely everything you need to know as a freshman and sophomore as you go through your first 2 years in high school. And we'll meet with you. We'll give you your username and your password. We'll set it up. We ask you to write it down, and then you can start to explore the different avenues that we spoke about a few minutes ago. Scholarships opportunities. I mentioned that before. I think Mr. Glucho and Ms. Sack mentioned that to you. Begin research and scholarship for high school students. Once again, as a freshman or a sophomore, if you look at the criteria, then you can say, oh, I have that now, or oh, I really need to start working on that, because if that's part of what I need to get that scholarship, I need to have that experience, okay? Getting involved with school and community is a great way to help your chances of being rewarded a scholarship. Once again, you want to get involved in different activities. You don't want to overburden, but you should have a nice balance of extracurricular activities as far as also with the academics. There are local scholarships that are completed in senior year. Ms. Sack mentioned that, and she's in charge of that. So in December, she'll be going in, when your child's a senior, she'll be going into the meeting with the seniors and going over the local scholarship and having them fill out the general application. And then there are over 60 organizations that participate. And I love that figure. Nearly 100,000 scholarships are awarded each year, right? So, that's quite a large amount of money. So obviously, seniors are strongly encouraged to apply for those scholarships. And on the bottom there says, once again, I mentioned that before, students in all grades can begin signing up for scholarships through the that website there. Always never too early to start to look at these things. Obviously, parents, I'm sure you could appreciate the fact that there's scholarship money that your children may be available for. Get an early start on that. What we can be doing now, right? Okay, we can't, because of COVID, we can't really visit too many schools, technical schools, but we can do virtual tours right now. So if you have an interest in a particular program, you can look at the college or technical school, and you can start to do a virtual tour of that school or that technical school. We as counselors are getting so many different notifications from colleges with virtual tours because they realize what's going on with the COVID, and they're reaching out to us because they know that they want to keep us abreast of what's going on in their programs. So the same thing for you parents and children, students, you can definitely look at the virtual tours that are out there. All right. Once again, utilize Naviance for research. Naviance is a great tool, so you make sure you utilize it for research. Attend college visits at HHS. You can sign up through Naviance. Once again, that is at this point will be done virtually. And there are, at this point, attending college fairs, which for most college fairs right now, they are all virtual too. So that's definitely something you can do virtually from your home. And then research careers. There's a review the occupational handbook, and there's a website there for that. Okay, so that's something that you can start to do. And parents and students, we encourage conversation at home. Make sure you're communicating with your parents if you have a question. And obviously, you can always contact your counselor if you have a question. We're always here to help you. But it's important to realize we're all here to work together. And students, you need to be doing your part academically, extracurricular activities, etc. And parents, encourage your students to get involved. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to your counselor. This is very important. Learning to be a self-advocate, all right? Self-advocacy, what is that? Okay, self-advocacy to me is learning to speak up for yourself and to take charge of your own life, all right? Different people at different points in their life are gonna be doing this to what they feel comfortable with, okay? So it's important that you be proactive, and because you ultimately, students, you are in charge of your success. Obviously, your parents are there to help you and to encourage you and to support you. and the counselors also have that role too. But ultimately, you are in charge of your own success. How do you know? How can you be in charge of your own success? First thing we list there is to know yourself, right? If you know yourself and what makes you tick, what you enjoy, that's very important, all right? You can do that through the different activities in Naviance to get to know yourself better. So that's one of the ways you could do that. Speak it to your parents, speak it to your friends, getting involved in different activities, seeing what you're good at. You know, that's how you can get to know yourself a little bit better. Know what you need, what's important to you, right? Everybody has needs and what's important to them. So that's also important. I mean, if you get enjoyment out of playing a particular sport and it gives you energy and it thrills you and you succeed at it, that's something that you're going to find that you need and you want to get better at, right? Know how to get it, right? If you deal with a sport activity, how do you get better at a sport? Practice, 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 right? Some people get tutoring, some people get pay for extracurricular activities with be batting or football, agility drills or whatever. So that's how you can get those different things to get better at that. All right, we check in with your counselors, obviously, throughout the year. Talk to your teachers and ask questions. Please do not be afraid to reach out to your teachers and ask them questions. We as counselors can answer some questions, but ultimately, we don't know what's going on in the classroom. The teachers know what's going on in the classroom. They're your best resource to find out about your grades and ask them questions. So that's where we talk about being a self-advocate. Students, you need to do that. Parents obviously can do that too, but it's more, if it comes from the students when they're emailing teachers, I think it's a much better way for teachers to say, okay, Charlie or Betty are coming to me personally. So I would be more, it's better if it comes from the student. Seek extra help before or after school. Okay, now Ms. Zach mentioned in phase 2, how we're gonna be having teachers who are gonna be available during that time slot for extra help. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. We also talked about the tutoring that's out there, the National Honor Society tutoring, but extra help is not for something that should be neglected. It's a strong point. It's not looked at as negative. It's important to get that extra help. You'd be surprised how many students who have A averages are getting extra help every minute of the day that they can, because to keep that A average, it's important that they get that extra help. Review the program of studies. The program of studies explains all the different courses that are out there, okay? Especially if you have a particular goal at this point, you want to make sure that you're taking classes your sophomore, junior, and of course, senior year, taking classes that are going to get you to achieve that goal. And the program of studies explains each course in great detail, all right? Always be invested in your own education. So by self-advocacy, you'll be investing in your own education. Don't be afraid to ask any questions and ask for help when you need it.
All right, so that brings us to the conclusion of our program. I know we went over a lot of information today. I'd like to thank my counselors, Mrs. Zach, Mr. Kodomo, Mr. Galuccio, Ms. Resnick. Thank you so much for your time in presenting all of this valuable information to our students and our parents. We know that you may have some questions. You may have some specific concerns regarding your student, your child, or just specific questions, or maybe just want to meet to kind of, create that rapport and that team approach so that we can help you moving forward. Please reach out to us. You see here all the contact information for the counselors. In addition to email and phone call, our school counselors are using Google Classroom as well too with our students to keep them abreast to updates, different things that we are putting together that we can get to them in a easy fashion since we are navigating this remote world. The remainder of this year is to be foreseen, in regards to at what point we can hopefully transition back to a little bit of normalcy. We're hoping that sooner rather than later. But as we move forward this year and navigate, we just encourage you to reach out to us. We are here to support you and your family and your child as well too, if they would like to make their own individual appointment with their counselor. Please have them reach out to us. On the guidance website, on our homepage, there is a Google form that they can fill out. Our counselors are checking that multiple times during the day, so we will see your student as soon as we possibly can. But you can also reach out to us again too, either through email or by phone, so that we can provide the best assistance, give you the best support we can, and ensure that your student is meeting their goals and having a successful high school career. So at this point, again, thank you. I'm just going to open it up to my counselors if they have any last remarks or thoughts that they would like to add before we close out here tonight.
I just want to say thank you for making it this far in our presentation. Again, as Ms. Weigert was saying, it is a lot of information, but I do think it's really important to kind of get a foundation for you as underclassmen to understand the ins and the outs of what high school really looks like. And again, if you guys need anything at this point, or if your children seem stressed out or nervous in these really uncertain times that we're having right now, please encourage them to reach out to us directly, because we're always here to help.
I would second that, again, because communication is key. If you're having questions, reach out to us. And again, I'll echo what Ms. Weigert said earlier. This year counts. Everything matters that you're doing this year in all of your classes. So if you're having trouble or if you have questions, reach out. We're here.
I guess I'll finish up by saying it's wonderful to have shared this opportunity with you folks. Hopefully the year goes strong for everybody. Remember, there's never a stupid question or a dumb question. Always be ready to explore the options that are available to you, and have a great rest of your school year.
Yeah, and I think hopefully the goal is next time we meet, we'll be able to meet in person. So as Mrs. Zach had stated, thank you for making it this far in the presentation. We know it was lengthy, but there's a lot of information we wanted to get through. So thank you. This will all be posted on our website, and we hope that you have a great rest of the evening.